So my definition of passion when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, and we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about almost codifying passion. So we codify it into origin, mission, vision, and values. So your origin story is like, I want to know what is it about your background that led to this being the perfect opportunity for you. Your vision, where are you trying to get to? What do you want to see happen in the world? Your mission, what do you want to contribute to that? And your values, how do you want to travel along that line?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Bar podcast. This is Denise Satova, your host. And today I am so excited to have with me a very special guest, a super entrepreneur, Daniel Priestley. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thanks for having me on the show. Here we are in Atlanta and it's hot.
Oh my goodness, isn't it hot?
Yeah.
It was incredible. Yeah,
I needed that. I'm from London, so like a little bit of heat, it's good. But it's warm outside.
Yeah, it is. I feel like I walked out, took a shower. So it's so great to actually meet you in person.
I know. We've been connecting on Zoom and watching each other's podcasts.
Yes, definitely. I watch so many of your podcasts, and I remember you were giving tips on pitching yourself clearly, stating what it is that you do. And in that, you skillfully shared your story. So it was almost like a sort of a mini version of elevator pitch or elevator speech. Why don't you do that? Tell us. Tell us.
No pressure.
No
right.
pressure.
I remember this time you did this so well, and it's like, all right, now we need to do it again. So I'm Daniel Priestley. I'm the founder and the director of Dent Global. We develop entrepreneurs who stand out, scale up, and make a positive impact in the world. We've been running this accelerator program for 15 years, and I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years. I've built 7 different companies. And written 6 books on entrepreneurship and all of that sort of stuff. So my background was essentially growing up in Australia. I was super lucky. I got this amazing mentor. I joined a startup. 2 years later, we'd built this huge national business. I got to go through that experience as an apprentice entrepreneur. And then I quit and started my own company and built a successful Australian business. Moved to London in the UK. We expanded into London, and then basically we ended up opening offices all over the world. Today I run a group of 8 different companies. There's a couple of tech companies. We've got some agencies. We've got an education and training side of the business. So very much all entrepreneurial stuff. So
Beyond the Bar podcast goes deeper. It goes beyond, titles and fame, and It's pretty interesting whenever I interview guests and I like to say, well, what's your story? And they start to go into, their professional story. So there's so much packed in there in what you said professionally. If you were to look back, would you have done anything differently on a personal level?
Yeah, there's definitely some mistakes I made. The ones that spring to mind are professional. So there's a couple of professional mistakes I made. I had this amazing opportunity to sell my company for a massive amount of money at 24.
Wow.
And I blew it. Right. So I had a term sheet, I had everything, and I picked a fight with my acquirer.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Like wild. Yeah. And like the big learning or the big lesson that I would look back would be like at that particular critical moment, get a mentor, get someone who's seen it before, done it before, and who's got perspective and can guide me through it.
Do you know why you blew it?
So it's a bit of it's a semi-long story, but basically we'd been working with this company as their marketing partner, and we'd been rolling them out across Australia, and they were going to float the company. So we pitched to them that they needed to own their marketing, that basically we'd fueled the growth. I basically pitched them a deal where they buy us for 14 million, expecting us that they would negotiate down to 10 million. And they agreed to 14 million. Right? I'm like, did I pitch this too little? So here I am, 24-year-old kid, and I pitched a deal for 14 million acquisition, and they've agreed. Term sheet, the whole lot. So this must have been like November of 2005. And they said, we're going to have a board meeting and we want you to come to the board meeting in Perth, which is about a 6-7 hour flight away. And they ended up calling the board meeting 2 days before Christmas. And I had all this Christmas stuff going on and all this. And they said, fly out to Perth. And I said, can we do it in the new year? Like, I'm done for Christmas. I've just had a massive year. No, we want you there. So I fly out, and I fly out with my sort of senior person, Glenn, with me. And basically we get out there and we're a bit grumpy about having to be there. And then they make us sit in the foyer for 8 hours. So we fly out on a red-eye flight. When we get there, 9 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was, they're like, oh, we're having the meeting. Just hang out, go for a walk if you want to go for a walk. And, when we're done, we'll call you in. And it was 8 hours later. It was like 5 o'clock by the time they got through. So we were just fuming. Yeah. We're just sitting in a foyer for this time. But during that time, Glenn and I start talking about all the things they're doing wrong. And we're talking about like they're not looking after their people and they're not doing training. And we end up with this list of like all the things that we think they need to improve. And rather than seeing the situation for what it was, which was basically to complete the acquisition deal, we got it in our head that it was a good time to talk through all the things that we think they need to change. And then we get so riled up with how disrespected we feel that we've been sat in the foyer that we walk into this meeting and we just start saying, listen, we've never been so disrespected. We've just made all this money for you. We've done all this stuff. We control your marketing. You need us, blah, blah, blah. And we throw our toys out the pram.
Oh, man.
And this begins a massive meltdown. And had someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, Daniel, this is a $14 million tantrum. Yeah. Don't do it. Suck an egg. Suck an egg.
That's going to make for a great headline. Yeah. $14 million tantrum. Yeah, that's interesting. It's like, we start to build a story, right? I mean, we spot one thing and then it adds another thing and then we start to believe it. So I was just trying to discern whether it was an ego or were you, maybe there was something there because sometimes you're simply not ready.
Definitely exhaustion, right? We're exhausted. We ran 173 events that year. So the whole marketing strategy centered around running these events. And that's how we'd gotten this great result for them. And they were going to float off the back of the numbers that we got for them. But it was an intensive strategy. And we were always in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. We worked 7 days. I would take like a day off to just catch up on laundry and stuff once a month. Wow. And it was roll out of bed in the morning, go all the way through till 11 o'clock at night and just repeat 7 days a week. It's not hard work. It's fun work, traveling, running events, speaking. Did you find
it fun?
Yes, but also exhausting. Okay. There were moments where it was just cooked. And that long flight right before Christmas, run down, not sleeping, sitting in a foyer for 8 hours, I was in reptile mode.
Yeah.
My brain was cooked and I lost all perspective. Yeah. And I was just having not.
You were just burned out.
Yeah, and I was 24.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, 24. I can't even imagine. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So anyway, that's one. Awesome. That's one that comes to mind.
Yeah. It's you've been on a podcast. You've been interviewed so many times. Is there a misconception about you?
Oh, good question. I think entrepreneurship can look more glamorous than it is behind the scenes. When I'm speaking on a stage, that's the fun part. Yeah. And when I'm on a podcast, that's the fun part. Behind the scenes, there's so much of meetings and dashboards and data and, recruiting and making sales and, all of that sort of stuff. So I think probably the misconception is that I swan around having a good time doing podcasts. The truth is that I do podcasts a couple of times a month, once or twice a month. And then I've got a team that chops it up and sticks it on social media. So it looks like I'm doing this all the time. Basically,
yes.
It creates a perception that all I do is just swan around, writing books, giving talks. But actually, there's a lot of non-glamorous. Same sort of thing for I always look at my favorite bands. And when you go to a concert and then you realize they do this 3 times a week and you're like, and they have to go from city to city to city and you go, there's a glamorous side and then
Yeah.
there's a work side. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're speaking my language. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a company. I run it full time.
Yeah.
And then I'm on social media, and there are comments like, "Well, wait a second. She was here. Now she's here. What is she doing?"
Mhm.
Well, it's you hire someone who does that because
Exactly.
you have to do it these days.
And then people get this perception that you're just having a good time, hanging out with your celebrity mates.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. What was your last concert? I saw you guys somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Foo Fighters.
Where was that?
Foo Fighters in London.
Okay.
100,000 people.
Oh my God.
Dave Grohl just smashing it. I tell you, I am so inspired by the Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl. It's been 30 years since Kurt Cobain died and Nirvana ended. And then Dave Grohl starts the Foo Fighters, and for 30 years they've been touring. And for 30 years he's great. Like there's 7 or 8 albums. And when Dave Grohl gets up on stage, he hits it like it's his first or his last. It's like he is so present in the moment. He's there for the crowd. He gives it everything he's got. He holds nothing back. And the thing that I'm always inspired by is this idea of pushing through. I want to I know it sounds like a strange example when you talk about being in front of 100,000 people, pushing through boredom. I'm super inspired by people who are able to repeat what works. Like surely Dave Grohl is sick of Foo Fighter songs, and Coldplay is sick of, Coldplay songs, and Metallica is sick of Metallica songs, and Dolly Parton is sick of, working 9 to 5. Right?
That's a good one.
But
they don't show it.
These performers, it gives this new definition to the word performer, like the ability to switch it on, the ability to say, I'm performing this for you. I'm giving you this gift. I've done it 100 times, but I'm going to do it for you tonight because I know it's special to you. This is your night. And there's something about that I'm always like tuned into. And it's like I see a lot of entrepreneurs where they want to have a great launch and then they want they want it to have a life of its own after a single launch. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. Yeah, you got to perform it. You got to be a performer.
Absolutely. Talking about launching and entrepreneurship and passion, I heard you talk about, I think that was on Diary of CEO, Stephen Bartlett was asking you about how key and important is passion when it comes to starting or running a business. And I remember you saying, well, look, it is important that everything is in alignment. If you go back to your age 10, and you actually got me thinking that far back, what it is that you enjoy doing, and then you combine it with a vision and a mission. And I'm wondering, you shared a moment. Can you share that moment at age 10? And then I'm wondering if that vision has sort of reshifted, if you made some adjustments to it. And what does that look like? So
the word passion originates from, actually it's a Catholic concept, and it's Christ's passion, which is the willingness to suffer for humanity. Right. So we've in modern context, we've taken the word passion to mean giving you a daily dose of joy. It's kind of like it makes you feel good. And we kind of like just lump it in with joyfulness or happiness or any of those kind of like feel good kind of words. But actually, when I went and had a look at this word passion, because everyone talks about follow your passion and do this thing you're passionate with, it's closer to say that passion is about, would I willingly suffer for this thing? Right? Would I actually go through tough times? So you think about, like, I'm passionate about your husband and wife. It's like, would I suffer would I go through the tough times as well as the good times? Passionate about family. Would I, there's going to be some suffering in that. There's going to be some, sacrifice. So it's kind of like, it's a weird dynamic that we've kind of forgotten, this idea that you're willing to sacrifice, willing to suffer in pursuit of something greater, in pursuit of something bigger. It's like, this short-term thing, I don't mind putting up with some difficult stuff because I'm really bought into this bigger thing. So my definition of passion when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, and we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about almost codifying passion. So we codify it into origin, mission, vision, and values. So your origin story is like, I want to know what is it about your background that led to this being the perfect opportunity for you. Your vision, where are you trying to get to? What do you want to see happen in the world? Your mission, what do you want to contribute to that? And your values, how do you want to travel along that line? So we play some games and some role plays, and we do some activities that kind of elicit origin, mission, vision, values. When we work with companies and we want to create alignment, it always comes out when we do origin, mission, vision, values. So we can take a team that is not very aligned,
right,
and the more we do that work, they end up very aligned.
On individual levels?
We often do it as a company. So like, for example, I was working with a company that's gone through incredible growth, 2 million to 200 million in like 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
Incredible.
And they've obviously, with that sort of growth, you end up with lots of people joining the company. And we kind of had a look at it. Most of the people who join the company don't know the origin story. They don't know where the company came from. They can tell you a little bit about it, but they don't have the moment of like, why did we start this business? What was happening before this business got started? What goes back 5, 6, what's the military background of this business? Because actually that's really important. And like, there's all these pieces. And then we got a group of the new people to come into the boardroom. We told them some of the origin story stuff. They were like so switched on to, wow, I had no idea. So that was great. And
then impacts the culture, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So hearing the origin story makes them go, oh, now I know this. I love this at a deeper level. And then vision. So we ask a question like, if there was a news headline in 2030 that something has happened in the world, and then as a company, we let out a cheer. We go, wow, that happened. No one will ever know, but we were part of that. Right? No one will know that we did it, but something happened in the world and we were part of that happening. And it's like, what would we love that headline to be? Yeah, so we play that game.
Very profound.
It's a great fun game.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, and then so mission, we talk about like, what is it that we do? Like now that headline's there, what did we do in the year ahead that sparked a domino effect? All right, that was like, what was the highest value activity that we could be doing that dominoed effect out to that big impact? So we play that, and then we do values. So we talk about this idea of one of the values activities we do, which is great, is we talk about you're in a nursing home, you're sitting in a rocking chair, someone young comes up to you and says, hey, I want to learn from you. I know you've been so successful. I know you've had an amazing life. What are 3 pieces of advice that you would give me on living a good life? And we ask people to give us their 3 pieces of advice, and it's always their 3 highest values. Really? So when they tell us what the advice is, so like, for example, when we did this activity at Dent, be brave, have fun, make an impact were the things that came out, right? Be brave, have fun, make a dent in the universe.
What is the brave? Tell me about the brave part.
So being brave is getting outside your comfort zone, taking the bold decision, being your best self, communicating,
without fear,
without the limitations of fear. Yeah. So it's like not acting from a place of fear, not acting from a place of possibility. So it's like being brave is like spreading your wings into what's possible, right? So going after what's possible. So that's the being brave. Having fun is remembering that you chose this.
Yeah.
Right? So, and you can choose it to be more fun. So not only did you choose it, so enjoy it because you chose it, but also you can also choose it to be different. You can choose to have some more fun. And remember, pat yourself on the back. Enjoy the journey. It's not about a destination. Enjoy each step. And then make a dent is about impact. Do stuff that matters. Do stuff that is like of greater purpose. So those were the 3 nursing home pieces of advice that we came up with, and those are now our company values.
What about your values?
Well, they're very much aligned to my values.
Like yours.
Yeah, very, very, very much. Be brave. If I'm talking to my kids, let's say, and they say, well, or my kids, and I say, be brave, have fun, make a dent in the those are, I think too, they have to be kind of aligned values. I think the founder of a business needs to put their stamp on it in that way. Like, this is how we travel. This is how we roll. So that's alignment, origin, mission, vision, values. We get everyone into that alignment. We codify it. We document it. We create little videos about it. We put posters up about it. So that happens. You asked about age 10. So I have this belief that between 10 and 13, everyone has a moment of empowerment, and it's in that moment of empowerment, somewhere around that time, that it sets us on a course in our life, and it becomes this reoccurring theme. And basically, we chase that feeling. So we feel good when we're back in that feeling.
Between 10 and 13, really?
Yeah. So psychologically, what happens around that time is that up until around 10, you're so enmeshed with your family that you just feel like you're an extension of them. That your survival is, just linked to your environment. Yeah. And you don't feel really a great sense of individuality until around 10 to 13. And then there's these moments that happen where you go, oh, okay, so mum and dad are their people and they have some flaws as well.
Yeah.
But there's me who has some agency in the world. So it's like discovering individuality, discovering agency. So when I probe on this with a few people, I'm going to ask you as well. Maybe I'll flip this podcast on you. So for me, I was about 10 years old. I get home from karate training, and there's been this accidental fire in the kitchen, and there's smoke on the ceiling, and there's black up the walls, and all this sort of stuff. And I go, oh wow! Dad says, brace yourself. This is, the house has had a fire. Anyway, there's all this stuff that was going to be thrown out because it's covered by insurance. So they were going to throw it all away.
But everybody was okay.
Everyone was okay. Okay. But there's all this stuff damaged.
Okay.
And I get it in my head, well, why are we throwing this away? I could sell it. If I clean this, then it would be worth something. I'm going to sell it. So I promised mum and dad, I'm going to clean this really as much as I can this week. And then I'm going to run a garage sale and I'm going to sell this stuff. And I'm going to make the money. So I don't know how I got this in my head, but I just kind of thought it was silly to throw this stuff away because it was just smoke damaged. Wow. So I get on this little, cleaning thing, and I start polishing it all up and making my piles of things. And then I make a sign that goes in the store and up on the corkboard, and I ring up the newspaper and run a little classified ad that we're having a garage sale. So I'm going through all these steps to run this garage sale. And then I go to the next door neighbors and I go, hey, look, I'm having this garage sale. I don't have enough stuff. Do you want to put anything in my garage sale? 50-50 joint venture. So I know. So I remember the neighbor doing, I think it might have been them that proposed the first 50-50. And then I realized that this was a thing and was so I remember it was like a car seat, a toddler car seat. So they're like, oh, well, if you sell it, you can have half and I'll have half. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I went and did that deal with all the neighbors for them to put stuff in.
Incredible.
The moment. So here's the moment. We're having the garage sale. I'm selling all the stuff. I think I've even got a toaster, and I'm toasting butter and jam toast, selling that for 50 cents or whatever. Right? I'm this little crazy little 10-year-old kid selling this stuff. And then this guy comes up and he says, how much for the microwave? He says, $20. He goes, I want to talk to your dad. So I go get dad. Dad comes out. And he says, look, your son says $20 for the microwave. Will you take 10? And my dad says, oh, no, it's his business. You'll have to negotiate with him. And dad turns around and walks back in the house. And this guy—
goosebumps.
Yeah. This guy looks at me and he looks terrified. He looks at me like, oh, sorry. Yeah. And he says, oh, will you take 10? And I'm like, no, it's $20.
Right. You remember that clearly.
Yeah.
What a feeling.
Yeah. And the feeling for me was
probably fearless.
Business. There's multiple feelings associated to this. This was my business. I'd done it. It was my idea. I'd coordinated people. I'd promoted it. Yeah. There was the feeling of something bad happened. And business made it good.
I see the connection.
Making the dent in the universe, right? That bad things in the world can be turned good through business, right? So business is a force for good. I didn't have those exact words at the time, but the idea of business is a force for good. So that was really cool. And also the money. I remember having hundreds of dollars at the end of the day. I bought a fluorescent green BMX bike,
Nice.
a Sega Master System, and a game. And I was like, I was rolling.
Felt like a king. Yeah. Yeah.
Big deal.
Wow.
So for me, that was my, like, this moment of empowerment. And then it's no question. And then I end up doing that over and over again. And one thing goes to the next, but it's like that feeling of like, this is my business, and I'm doing this. So I don't know. What do you think yours would be?
That's interesting because so I was born and raised in Czech Republic, in Prague. It was Czechoslovakia at that time.
It was communist?
It was still communist country, yeah. But I was raised, me and my sister, by a single mom, and she was sent to China to work at a Czechoslovakian embassy for 4 years. So I was 8 years old. From 8 to 12, we lived in Beijing.
Oh, wow.
And in addition to that, we didn't have a school at the Czechoslovakian embassy. So they would bus us over to Russian embassy. So we had to pick up Russian language in China. So I'm just trying to remember, I used to love like teaching. And I used to also get frustrated when things were not simple enough. And I used to look at simplifying things.
Interesting.
And
can you think of a moment? Like an actual, like there was a particular high point or a particular culmination?
So we returned when I was about 12 or 13, came back to Prague. And we had to pass exams to sort of to test out to make sure that I could get into the next grade in a Czech school. And I remember, and I think it was just like a series of these modules, these tests, and they appear to be very repetitive. And I was just wondering, I was almost bored. It's like, why am I doing this? And it may have been in the summer even. And I was just wondering, why is this so complicated? And I even remember my mom would get frustrated. Obviously, everything was terribly complicated during communism. She couldn't stand it. And I just, I think I remember writing out a simplified way of doing this. And even it helped me the way I looked at these problems. It was making me anxious to go through every single step. I'm like, you can take 10 steps and condense it down to 3. That's one that I remember.
And you mentioned teaching. When were you teaching?
So the teaching would have been, this was actually funny. We had a friends who were going to go to China, and I didn't speak Chinese. I didn't even speak English at that time, but they wanted to know Russian language basically, so they could get into the Russian school and their kids could continue. So I was developing like a little curriculum. And I just was just enjoying that part of it.
And you're 12.
Yeah. I think it was a 12, maybe a bit 11, 12, something like that. Yeah.
So like, the theory would be that fast forward to today, any moment where you're simplifying things, where you're teaching, where you're taking something that's overcomplicated and you're just making it simple and you're enrolling other people in that, is like one of those moments that's reminiscent of that. And it's like this kind of like this echo of that moment of empowerment where you easily feel empowered when you're in those moments. Does that ring true?
It really does. And I think more of what you just said rings true a few years later. And talking about being vulnerable, but I think vulnerability is such a strength. Fast forward after the trip to China, and then back to Prague, 2-3 years later, I ended up in the United States on my own. That's a very long story that we're not going to get into, but on my own, basically, didn't know the language, didn't know the culture. I struggled for a couple of years, homelessness, and but you know what? I've never felt frightened. I would go, there was a brief period of time. I've always felt sort of very enterprising. I've always felt I needed to find a solution. I wanted to get
strong
American education.
Instincts.
100%. I don't look at actually that part of my life as frightening.
Yeah.
And when I lived in a shelter temporarily and they would release everyone and you had to go out there, look for work, I remember going to a library, sifting through books. And again, long story short, when I ended up back in Prague, that was the second time after that I subsequently came back here permanently. This was just unbelievable. I educated myself about the first Macintosh that I've seen somewhere in the library.
Right.
I saw a computer and I'm like, I fell in love.
Wow.
It was like, this is it right here. All the knowledge, all the ways that we could organize things are in this box.
Wow.
I don't care if I don't have a pot to, if I don't have clothes. I actually was in touch with my mom who was in Prague, and she said, you got to come home. You can't do this. You got to return. I said, Mom, I will do that, and I will spend years paying this off, but please, I want to bring back Macintosh. And and so I got out of a shelter, and I briefly worked for a refugee assistance program. And my boss said, you know what, I will pay for it. I basically landed at the airport in the Czech Republic then. I come in with this big box and there's a computer. And I remember I felt so happy. I felt incredibly happy because it was my connection to the world. It had all the information. Mm-hmm. So many, many decades forward, when I heard you introduce ScoreApp, and I'll maybe talk about that, it was like an incredible solution to the problem that I've been trying to find, as I sort of navigated my way through different careers, ended up in financial services industry, and then, providing divorce retirement services. Is there's been so much of inefficiency and helping customers sort of transform their thinking. This was it. So combining technology,
interesting,
and then my need to simplify. So you asked for it. There you go. I can't believe it. Here I am.
But it's nice because there's this common theme there that is it's about simplification. It's about education. Interesting too that your story fixates on this idea of a Mac, right? Mm-hmm. And Mac was built on the principles of simplify and educate, right? So Steve Jobs was all about tapping Mac into education and all about simplify. Don't make it complicated. Make it. So it's interesting. This thing shows up, and you must have been one of the first people to ever take a Mac into.
Into
Prague.
Czech Republic,
Czech
Prague,
Republic.
yeah.
So you probably brought the first Mac into that region.
It's like SE something, yeah.
So there's something. It's interesting. What I find is there's always when you dig, there's always these little moments, and I've had many times where people discover this, and then they discover their secret sauce. They discover their theme that works for them. The benefit of knowing the theme is that it gives you a lot of power in knowing what's for you and what's not for you. So when you looking at opportunities, you can say, this opportunity relates to this, this, and this. That's my winning formula. That's where I'm great. That's what lights me up. That's where I get passion. That's where I get where I easily enroll other people. That's where you
identify that.
Yeah. So for me personally, I have codified it to be. I believe that entrepreneurship is a force for good, and that entrepreneurs solve the world's most meaningful problems. So and the other way I say it with my mission is I develop entrepreneurs who stand out, scale up, and make positive impact. So for me, my winning formula is very simple. If I'm developing entrepreneurs who stand out, scale up, and make a positive impact, and I'm focusing on entrepreneurship as a force for good and entrepreneurs solving meaningful problems, I get so easily aligned to that it just effortless creativity, effortless energy, effortlessly enrolling people, getting resources. It just magically happens. When I try to make money, when I try to, chase an opportunity, never works, never has worked.
Because it's not in alignment.
It's not in alignment. It's not for me. There are certain friends of mine who go, I'm making so much money in these like multiple house rental properties. I buy a place and it's got 5 bedrooms and I turn each bedroom into a thing. And, I got all these tenants. And I'm like, that's great for you, right? You seem pretty lit up by that. But I know myself well enough now that it's if that's not in alignment, it doesn't matter how money making it is. It's it's not going to work for me. I know it's not going to work for me. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the Ikigai
Ikigai, yeah, the Japanese concept. Yeah, very similar. It's
right?
it's the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that serves others, the thing that you're good at.
That you're good at, you can get paid for, that the world needs, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. I saw a documentary where they were interviewing like these centenarians in Japan.
Yes,
right?
they're so happy.
So happy, so energized. And they all talk about, this is my Ikigai. Yes. So my Ikigai, they actually say my Ikigai is playing this flute for the people at the nursing home. They know what their Ikigai is. What a beautiful concept to actually be able to say to someone else, this is my Ikigai, or this is not my Ikigai.
Yeah. It's almost like a compass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being mindful.
So if you look at the 8 companies I've got, they all kind of come back to this theme. I've got a publishing company that publishes books for entrepreneurs, stand out, scale up, make a positive impact through publishing. I've got a software company, ScoreApp, right?
Talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So years ago, I wrote a book, Key Person of Influence, and I wanted to be able to connect with my readers. So I created a scorecard where you read the book and it says, after about chapter 2, it says, to get the most out of this book, go to this web address, fill in these 40 questions, and it will give you a custom report that will tell you where you're strong, where you're weak, and then read the rest of the book, and that will tell you what to pay the most attention to get the most out of the rest of the book. So I kind of built this online scorecard system, and it was a nice landing page, and then they answer the questions, and then it gives them a dynamic report. I spent £15,000, $20,000 building this, and everyone loved it. So 90,000 people filled it in. We ended up doing $20 million worth of sales off the back of it.
Did you anticipate that? Was it the intention?
I anticipate that everything I do will just be perfectly, will just go so swimmingly well. Yes and no. I always have high hopes that something will have engagement, but also I'm a pragmatist. I know that most things fail.
Yeah. I was just wondering if that was more or less like an experiment. But
it was an experiment. Yeah. I'd worked on another one that was similar. So before that, I'd worked with another author who had created a personality test, and I'd seen hundreds of thousands of people fill that in.
Really?
Yeah. So I'd had the experience of seeing it work, and I kind of wanted to emulate what I'd learned. So anyway, when someone fills in the scorecard, it would go to my team. My team would talk to them, and we'd end up doing sales. And it became like a $20 million, $20 million worth of sales came off directly from that campaign. And it actually was so successful that we could just give the books away for free. So rather than having to sell books, I would just give books away, and then we know that people would read the book, do the scorecard, talk to the team, and sign up for stuff. So it was just such
that was brilliant.
It was so
like simple.
Like a
concept,
like a machine.
Wow!
Give away 1,000 books, and we know that it turns into hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of sales. So it became effortless, low. Like everyone loved it. There was no there's no above the line selling strategy because the only people we're selling to is people who'd filled in the scorecard and wanted to talk about how they could improve. So it was just perfect. So then I did 2 more. I did one for 24 assets. I did one for oversubscribed, and they start going as well. And then all these other companies are saying, hey, we want to emulate this. We want one. So this guy comes and says, I teach people how to do DJing. Could we create a DJ scorecard? I'm like, sure, let's try. So we create one of those. And then and someone else does like weight loss. Could we create a weight loss scorecard? Of course. So we go through and we start building these. We build about 30 of them on WordPress. And then eventually we just go, you know what? This needs to be a platform.
Right.
Launch the platform. And we launched in 2020. COVID hits and we're launching this business. And then it turns out everyone needs a way to engage people remotely.
Yes.
And
perfect.
Suddenly,
perfect timing.
Fire hose goes on.
Yeah.
So we become Scale Up of the Year. We become like so we go from tiny little bit of fundraising. Basically we end up with like 6,000 clients. At the moment we are where we are now. Something like 8,000 people a month sign up to ScoreApp.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, and it's at like every 5 minutes.
Wow.
Every 5 minutes a new client signs up.
Love it.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to talk to you about that because so I subscribe to it, and I created my first one for my clients are divorce attorneys. And there is a lot of inefficiency in the services. So what we provide is a retirement division services, and the process has been broken, so to speak, for so many years, and there's been an evolution of retirement plans. However, divorce attorneys have not necessarily evolved with it. So what I did with the ScoreApp is I developed a series of questions to attempt to transform their thinking without me telling them what the issues are. And it's interesting because I literally walk them through, are you doing this? How confident do you feel in this area and this area? And if, what would be what do you think the desirable outcome would be? So sort of like leading them to the water,
Which
right?
is how people change their thinking. Great salespeople ask questions. Yeah.
And that was phenomenal. And I think I created like 3 or 4 of them. Now, the problem is that they're resistant to changing. You have the population. Some people will say, this is great. I get it. Light bulb goes off. And then you have those who, I've been doing it like this for many years. So it illuminates the issue. They're not necessarily ready to, transform.
The research says that transformation requires education and entertainment, right? So it has to be a combination of left and right brain alignment.
Interesting.
So the education is typically more the left brain logic, and then it has to be coupled with the right brain, the emotion, the stories.
Okay.
So when I say educate and entertain, it just rolls off the tongue, but it's like education is like logically building the argument for change.
Okay.
Entertainment is sharing the stories of change, taking people through the emotion side of things. And then urgency is creating moments for change, like this is a moment to act now. This is a moment to make a small change now. So education, entertainment, and urgency, left brain, right brain, and timing. The research says something like 7 hours. So like 7 hours, for anyone like who wants to create change in someone, you got to budget quite a bit of time for them to go through a process. You got to remember that the conclusions that you came to probably took you 7 hours.
Oh,
like at least.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
totally. So, and as a result of that, I launched masterclasses. And as a result of that, it is amazing now. So there will be those who will resist the change because it's, I've been doing it like this for a long time, and that's fine. Continue on this path if you wish. However, there are many who actually, without me telling them something, the light bulb went off.
If they go through a few of those masterclasses, they're ready to go, ready to change.
You're creating a demand with this.
Do you in your masterclasses, is it a balance of educate and entertain, or more to educate?
Well, that's an interesting thing. I weaved in my story in the beginning. Really, the entire presentation, the masterclass starts with sort of the why, and it shares a little bit of my sort of a disdain for inefficiency and how I have the need to sort of take things apart so I can help. Some saw it as they actually loved it. They connected with that concept. Some saw it a little bit as a self-promotion, but there's sort of like the sort of the narrow thinking, if you will.
Did they say that to you?
Yes. I got a little flighted.
They saw it as self-promotion.
There was just a few individuals who refused to change. I'm sure you've encountered that.
I have, and it's often the case that when someone spots something, it's a reflection of their own thing.
Yes.
So when someone says, you're just self-promoting, it's often the case that they feel that they should be self-promoting, but they're afraid to.
Yes.
That they get triggered by it because they go, self-promotion is kind of required these days, but I wish it wasn't.
I really don't want it.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, no, exactly. But the other one, let's talk about your wait list. I mean, I basically, before I threw myself to developing a course, you talk about create a demand, but create sort of a momentum. It's been tremendously effective.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my most successful strategies has always been waiting lists. So rather than launching something which requires someone to make a decision and a commitment, we always launch the waiting list. And, so let's say I wanted to launch a course or a training. We would never make it available now. It would just be, we're going to be launching this course, this training. It's for these types of people and solves these problems. If you're interested, join the registration of interest, fill in the form, join the waiting list, and then we'll give you the information when it's available. Now, we will never launch something until we have ideally a 20-to-1 ratio. So if we want to, sometimes it can be 5-to-1 depending on the price point. But a 5-to-1 to a 20-to-1 is good. So let's say I want to sell 10 things. I want to have 50 people on the waiting list to 200 people on the waiting list.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's that ratio that creates tension. And it's that tension that gets people to just go for it. Because it's like, and it's also, it gives, I have this funny word called with or without you energy.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
so with or without you energy is I'm going to be fine because I'll feel this with or without you. And it's as soon as you magically get with or without you energy, my goodness, the world beats a path to your door. So let's say I want to launch something and I want to sell 100 units and we have 2,000 people on a waiting list, or 500 to 2,000. We've got a lot of people on a waiting list. Suddenly I get this little magic ingredient with it. This is going to happen with or without you. So then someone says, oh, look, I'm not sure if I'm ready to go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. We've got over 2,000 people on the waiting list. We can only take 100 people anyway. I said, come through round 2. Yeah. Oh no, I don't necessarily want to wait till
wait.
Well, you don't have to. It's funny because it's that with or without you energy that's so compelling. It's cheeky because a lot of people talk about it with dating. And it's like if you've got people who want to date you, you get with or without you energy, and then more people want to date you.
Yep, exactly. You don't appear to be desperate. You may be screaming inside, going, "I really don't want it to fail." But that is so powerful. Talking about the self promotion. Okay. Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion. Okay, next.
Yeah.
Talking about dating or relationships, I should say.
Let's go there.
Yeah, let's go there. So, how would your wife describe you?
Do you know? It depends if she's describing me publicly or privately.
Let's talk about privately.
Publicly. So on Twitter, one of the things that she loves talking about publicly is just the value of family and relationship. She's such an advocate for that. And she's so proud of the fact that we've got a great relationship. We've got our 3 kids. We've got our nice family home, and she loves to do that. Publicly, she's like super she's like big fan, right? Dan fan.
Yeah.
Don't say a bad word about Dan, or else you get Elena on the case, right? Privately, what's great with Elena is she'll be the first one to say, "I think you could improve this," or she's got a great way of saying it. She's not negative, but she's very much someone who steers me in the right direction. She'll say, "I think you should stay away from that topic," or you should that particular brand or that particular person, that's not good for you. You should dial that back.
Are you receptive to that?
Oh, totally. She's got great intuition. She's got better intuition. There's been certain people that I've wanted to get into business with. She's met them and gone, no. And I'll go, fine. Okay.
That's great.
And as soon as she says no, then it's
that's it.
That's
done.
it. Done. I trust her intuition.
Yeah.
I really do. I think she's got a perception that I don't have. She's much more tuned in on that level, but there was someone who I was in business with and I thought it was all great. She got a bad feeling real early on, and that 9 months later, 12 months later, that relationship became one of my most costly and disastrous things. She called it meeting one.
Wow.
And I'm like, no. What are you talking about? Like, no way. She's like, no, bad news.
She knew.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. As a matter of fact, so my husband, Glenn, same thing. We talk shop because we operate in the same industry, but we have 2 separate businesses. And I have a tendency to be, I'm a doer. I'm the risk taker. I just get stuff done.
Get into it.
He's more I have to take my time. Maybe he's more risk averse, but I can push him a little bit to action. But then when I'm way out there and I want to sort of throw myself at something, he has me just sort of slows me down and make sure that I look at all angles.
Complimentary.
Doesn't slow me down too much.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So, and I gotta give a preamble to this.
Okay.
So the deck of cards has got 4 suits, and you've got clubs, you've got spades, you got diamonds, and you got hearts, right? And these represent 4 energies that people have. Club's energy is associated with spring, and it's big ideas, 30,000 foot, looking up in the air. It used to actually be berries, right? As in new berries on the bush.
Yeah.
And it's like hundreds of new ideas, right? Big picture strategy, head in the clouds. So that's that energy.
Okay.
When you meet someone like that, they're always having new ideas. They're always like, pop, 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 pop. I'm like that. Hearts is people. They just love people. They're like all about networking and remembering people's preferences and bringing communities together, organizing dinners. Spades is tasks. Do the work, dig the hole, get in the trench, dig the thing, do the thing, right? Task, right? Pick up the spade and dig it, right? Do the difficult thing. Diamonds is protect resources, right? So it's measure the resources, protect the resources, and it's hoard, protect, procure. Like it's all about like data, numbers, systems, and protection. So these are the 4 energies. And everyone has a dominant one.
Yeah.
So where do you think you are and where do you think your husband is?
Well, I know I think he's, can there be somewhere in between? Or
of course, yeah. But there's a dominant one, but there tends to be the
dominant one. Okay.
I mean, we're all a bit of all of them.
Yeah. Okay. In that case, I'd say he's more of a protecting the resources.
Yeah. Is he a bit more of an introvert? Doesn't have a huge circle of doesn't have like hundreds of.
No, he does not have we're both extroverts. We're both introverts functioning in the extroverted world really well.
Yeah.
He's testified over, 1,200 times. He's been,
that's different. But
professionally, but personally,
yeah.
Definitely more introvert. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
And where are you?
You know what? I'm an introvert also. I'm a loud introvert. But I would say I'm in the head in a cloud. Ideas and a doer.
Big ideas.
And a doer.
Yeah.
Tasks, when it comes down to tasks, I get up to try and simplify, find a solution, but I don't want to do the tasks. I cannot. What about you guys?
So I'm very I'm ridiculously head in the clouds. I'm like clubs, like new ideas, clubs, right? I got 2 clubs out, right?
Yeah.
So that's very much me. And then I swing across to hearts, like big ideas and people. And I can't stand having to do all the tasks, right? Which I surround myself with amazing task people.
That's great.
And I also ignore the detail a lot, and I bring people in to help me with that, the systems, the processes, the data.
Yes.
Elena is very good at tasks and resources.
Wow.
So we kind of like opposites. Like if you imagine them as a cross, and you've got clubs, spades, hearts, diamonds, and like that quadrant is me. The hearts and
and the people.
Elena's tasks and resources.
So you complement each other really, really well. 1 + 1 is 11, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't compete. There's no stepping on toes.
Yes.
I can be on a big platform, millions of views, and she's like, "That's great for you. That's not what I would want to do, but." Happy days. I'm like, hey, I'm on Diary of a CEO, and she's just 100% happy for me. Not at all interested in trying to replicate that. She's like, that's not her.
Does she ever try to talk you down the sort of not the ledge of excitement, if you will? Kind of like bring you down to earth. Glenn does that to me sometimes, and I go.
The task people always do. Task people want to make
it. Took me a while to just. You got to realize
that's how they're adding value.
Yes.
In the same way, I'm exhausting to be around. Because I'm like, new big idea, right? So,
do you execute it?
I'm very good at putting together teams who do.
Okay.
That's the heart side.
That's part of it. Oh, okay.
So the heart side is I have a big idea and then I find the people to execute.
That's key.
Right? The thing that I annoy Elena with is she's like in the tasks and the data and the numbers, and like she'll be organizing things at a very organizing level. She'll be in that, and because I can't stand that stuff, I'm distracting her with big ideas. Right? So she, like, if we're organizing, like we're doing a holiday, and she's like organizing hotels and logistics and cars and getting the kids around and where we'll be and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, what if we drove to Jasper? What if we went to Banff? What if we? Right? And she's like, stop it! I'm organizing.
Focus.
I'm putting the tasks in place, and I'm like, but what if?
Right? What if?
Yeah,
that's funny.
Hey, we could just jump on a plane. We could go to Disneyland. We have not planned that, right? So,
is she spontaneous?
She likes to plan.
What about you?
I'm totally like,
yeah.
No, if you said especially when I was a single guy, no kids, like I just, we should go to Mallorca this weekend. Yeah, let's go to Mallorca weekend. Do you know what? I could either go home and pack or just go to the airport and buy some stuff at the airport. Let's do it.
Simple, low maintenance. Yeah, let's just go.
So there were several trips that I did with friends where we were just kind of like Friday afternoon, 4:00, and went, let's just head out to the airport and jump on a plane and go somewhere. Wow. And then we'll just buy stuff on the way. We'll
worry about that later.
There's a t-shirt, and we'll find what we need to find.
See, guys can do that. You can pack 2 pairs of underwear for the whole week. Just flip it inside out and get a t-shirt somewhere, and you're good. So.
2 pairs? That's excessive. Wow,
I
my
know,
goodness.
Right.
That's decadent. 2 whole pairs.
Oh my God, that is so funny. But I am more spontaneous than Glenn for sure. I'm not as spontaneous as that. I do need a little bit of a planning.
It's a stage of life.
Definitely. But he's definitely more of a planner. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I use this with my teams as well. So, like, if you think about the classic executive team, classic executive team, CEO, visionary, COO, who complements them, operator, tasks, CMO, marketing, and CFO or CIO, data and finances. So you kind of get these 4 dynamics that play out. The deck of cards, by the way, I know
this is really great.
I know I'm on a way off tangent.
No, this is great.
The deck of cards was created as a way of training people on how society runs.
Really?
Yeah. So prior to books and literacy and all of this sort of stuff, it's a very ancient document. But basically, the deck of cards, all the numbers add up to 364, plus the joker's 365. There's 2 jokers, so sometimes 366, right? So the year. 4 seasons, 4 suits, 13 weeks per season, 13 cards per suit. You've got spring, summer, winter, and autumn energy, fall. So there's the 4 energies. There's masculine and feminine, red and black. And there's 3 types of power, which is the king, queen, and the jack, which is dominance, which is the king, right? Military power, institutional power or agreements, which is the queen, and then trading or commerce or meritocracy, which is the jack, which is three types of ways to do status. Then you've got the 1 becomes the 11, which is the ace, can either be 1 or 11, which is the bottom of society, can overthrow the king, right? The pitchforks can come. So you have the 3 face cards are the people who are known, the leaders, and then the 10 strata of society, the 10, 9, the cards. So it's actually all in there. I know this sounds crazy, but I use it.
Do you?
Yeah.
When you're evaluating if someone's a good fit for a hire or
so the 2 things I use most often is balancing the 4 energies. The jack represents purpose and fun. Each one of the seasons, each one of the suits has a dominant question. So the joker is not Jack. The joker is why. Why are we doing this? Right? Like, and it's kind of like the purpose, the fun.
Right.
The question for clubs is what? What if? What should we do? What's possible?
Yeah.
The question for hearts is who? Who should we connect with? Who would be involved in this? Who do we get around the table? The question for spades is when. When do we do it? When do we actually but when does everything happen? And then the question for diamonds is how. How do we make this protect? How can we protect this? So I always mentally when I'm running a meeting, I'm running through those 5 questions.
Really?
And when we build a product, because we innovate products all the time, I'm always saying this product is very strategic, but it's not very task orientated, right? This product doesn't have a community attached to it, and if we add a community, it will be a more attractive product. This product doesn't have the resource or the data or the numbers that it spits out. So when I'm innovating a product, I'm actually bringing together the 4 energies.
Are you always looking for a balance of all 4?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay.
Yeah, great products have a great balance of four energies.
That is great.
I know it's wild, right?
No, this is great. It's intuitively actually makes sense to me.
I intuitively use it. Like when I first started looking into this, I'm like, this is really wild. And then I've never forgotten it, and I use it. I regularly use it in meetings. It's a mental model. When you look at industries, there will be dominant brands. One brand will be the big picture brand, the innovator, right? So the company that is the known innovator. One is the community orientated brand. It's for people. It's all about we're the closest to the market. We build the closest relationship. One is the most practical option. One is the most cheapest option, on price. So there's always the 4 brands that emerge, and you can kind of go through industries and you'll find that there's the 4 dominant brands. Yeah, I know.
It's like a new lens of looking at everything.
I took us on a tangent, but
this is because you know what? I think at the end of the day, you can have systems, you can have methodologies. It's something that you can own, something that you can connect with. As you obviously work with so many wannabe entrepreneurs who are already in a particular stage in their life. And I wanted to mention that to you and actually ask you is that you have phenomenal tools. You have the resources, the companies, the coaching. It's there. Yet, for many people, it's tough to execute. And I think that sometimes what you're mentioning is finding that something, because you can read, you can listen to, how do you unpack it and how do you get rid of limiting beliefs, but it's ultimately takes some paradigm shift. So what you're describing,
mental models and playbooks. So playbooks, mental models. That is the cornerstone of running multiple companies and multiple teams. You need to know your playbooks and you need to have mental models as to how you organize things. If it's always random, it's just too hard.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's true. Things like deck of cards is how I can jump into a meeting when I'm tired and somehow organize my thoughts around what would this need, what value could be created, what's missing. So having a mental model, having a playbook, big deal. Big deal.
I'm going to learn that. I need to do that because you know what? I start with an idea and then I get exhausted. I exhaust myself when it comes down to organizing it. This is when I'm lost. It's almost like, okay, now I'm getting down to that task level. I can't. Yeah.
I need a new idea. Yeah.
Oh, here's my question. And I know we'll wrap up. Is if let's say you have, actually, I'll use a specific example. So, or maybe I will not use names just in case. You have a team. There's about, 17 people. And you have 2 business partners. And one of them is, he's the people's, he falls in that people's quadrant, the relationships.
Heart's energy, yeah.
As well as he can definitely protect the resources and even, and comes up with ideas, understands that you need to
by the way,
brain yourself.
The red line is hearts and diamonds.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. That's right.
And the black line is big ideas and tasks. Yeah. So those 2 do swing.
Okay.
Yeah, they're connected. Yeah.
Okay. How do you transform or recruit the rest of the team to change their mindset from being just service providers, being, the ducks and eagles? Mm-hmm. Some people are just ducks. Some people are natural born eagles, but you really need everyone to sort of to subscribe to it, to go out there and sell.
Yep.
Not just to do the work.
Yep.
But if someone's in their 40s and 50s, how do you, without basically sounding like their parent, to get them, sort of recruit them into that sort of thinking? Like, you got to get out there and build relationships.
So there's a couple of things that I look at, which is I always I want people to be enrolled and aligned, right? So regular realignments. Every 90 days on all of my companies, we do a 90-day reset. So the reset is we do an alignment session and we realign the team and we look at connecting everyone back to the origin, mission, vision, and values. We look at connecting people back to incentives. So people need to be incentivized. If I told someone that every time you made a cold call, I'll give you $15,000 just to pick up the phone and call a person randomly, everyone would pick up the phone hundreds of times a day.
Yes.
Right? They wouldn't stop. They wouldn't want to sleep. So when incentives are there, people behave according to incentives. Show me the incentives and I'll show you the behavior. Is a big one. When governments ramp up taxes, people don't work so hard, right? Or they leave. The hard workers leave the country because you've changed the incentive structure. So incentives are important. So I always look at incentives. I look at alignment, all of that sort of stuff. Then a big part of every successful business is the assets of the business. And I had an experience where when I was 14 years old, I went and worked at McDonald's. So in Australia, you can be 14 and 9 months to get your first job. So I was 14 and 9 months. The minute I was able to get a job at McDonald's, I got a job at McDonald's. And the very strange thing at McDonald's is that the store manager is like 23 years old. The shift manager is 21. The crew trainers are 16. The workers are 14, 15. And we run a multi-million-dollar restaurant and we keep up with insane amounts of product creation and traffic. And when you look at behind the scenes at a McDonald's, you will see a bunch of teenagers who are predicting the trends, producing the products, keeping a steady stream of fresh product going. And they are like, these are kids who can't clean their own room and they're running a multi-million-dollar restaurant. So how does that happen? McDonald's is full of very strong assets, and the assets from the brand, the assets to like the systems, the menus, the suppliers, that once you step into the McDonald's ecosystem, the ecosystem takes over. And you can be an idiot teenager who can't clean their bedroom. Right. But in the environment dictates performance. And the environment says, you are going to perform a certain way inside here and you can't escape it, right?
And your parents are not here.
We are. From the minute you clock onto a shift, everything has a way of happening. There's an asset, the way the dress bench and the grills are set up, the way that like everything is set up, the language that is used.
System.
So you can't get out of it. You can't wiggle out of McDonald's performance. Performance is built into the environment. So I always look at this idea of me as the person who's running the business. Am I giving them the assets they need to succeed? And the assets are the playbooks, the steady stream of leads, let's say, the marketing cloud cover, so I will have a sales team, and if I turn on the lead generation tap like a fire hose and they're really high quality leads and those leads get booked straight into their diary, and then if they miss a few appointments, they're out, and they've got scripts and they've got product knowledge and they've got training. Once that fire hose of leads is on and their diary's full, and once they're trained on how to deliver a presentation, they can't help but do that because the leads are always showing up in the diary.
Right. Nowhere to go. You have to. Yeah.
And then as soon as the leads are in their diaries and they make a sale, then that gets passed over to this person and there's a steady stream of that. So
interesting.
So I'm looking at alignment, yes, but more the assets, the playbook, the flow that I'm pushing into the business. If that's steady and that's strong, there's no choice but to keep up.
You don't send them out there. You figure it out on your own. You provide all that. And then there's no excuse. You either do it, and if you don't do it, you're not the right person for the job.
Yeah. I have also a strange belief, which is that the number of people who are rainmakers in the world, there's like 1 in 100, right? And
absolutely.
You cannot expect people to, if people were good at manufacturing demand, they'd be out doing their own business. So I have, now what they can do is they can deliver a sales presentation that's booked in their diary.
Oh, but that's a good point.
But what they can't do is go out to market, find an interested prospect, bring that person into the business, make the sale, hand them over. If they had that skill or that energy, they'd be doing it for themselves. And if you develop that too much in them,
no,
they'll go.
You don't want to do that,
right? Well, they
cut.
Yeah, they will because ultimately, like I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I call this manufacturing demand. Manufacturing demand is going out and finding demand where there is none. Right. Send me into a desert. I'll come out with customers.
Oh, I bet you will.
Right. And it's like,
and a business that's worth $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, wait a second, it was just a desert in there a minute ago. You just come out with 100 customers. I can manufacture demand. I never expect that of my team.
That makes sense.
Yeah, my team are there to manufacture supply. My team are there to keep up with the demand.
With the demand that you manufacture, that you originate.
So I'm the first. I'm the first domino. I move it all in, and then the team take it from there. That's how I view it. Now that could be running ads. It could be, but it's up to me to get that flow going. Same as McDonald's. McDonald's brand meant that there were always people coming to the restaurant and we had to keep up with it. We could do that, but if we had to walk out and try and find the customers and bring them into the restaurant, it wouldn't have worked.
And if you're the owner and you want to retire, right, transition out of the business, right, and you want to get, let's say, bought out, and you have a team who has been generating supply, taking care of the supply, you the demand generator.
Yeah.
Then what?
Ongoing service contracts, SLAs, right? So monthly recurring revenue. Most businesses are actually sold on their monthly recurring revenue. So it's the ongoing momentum, or selling to someone who has pent up demand and needs supply. So finding that person who is, so often finding the next rising star. And, if someone has an ascending star, and they can manufacture demand, but then they just need a ready-made supply so that they can turn that demand into millions. Because demand creators tend to create buzz. They stir up the beehive, but they're not good at making the honey.
No.
Right?
No.
So if you say, hey, look, you're creating a real buzz, my team can turn that into money.
Honey.
Yeah, money, honey. We can do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that tends to work. Selling a company, it's a delicate balance, a delicate fit. The easiest way to build a business that can be sold is that the buzz you created results in contracted revenue. So you've actually got monthly recurring revenue contracts, so that basically you've turned on the taps and the taps stay on even after you leave.
You have a team, assets, all that.
You look at the highest recurring, the highest exit value there's a measurement called quality of earnings. And that is basically, do the taps stay on?
Oh, that's a real test.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you look at the highest exitable businesses, it's software, where the software is digested into the belly of the customer and there's no way they can get that out of their belly, right? It's they've swallowed that hook, and that software, pulling that software out is going to be so painful, and they just pay their recurring revenue. So if you take a good software company, they might be charging $500 a month, but they might be delivering $5,000 a month worth of value, and the cost of pulling that out and putting in a new software, it's like it would cause such disruption, and the chances of it, and it's already making us money, this software,
right?
So those software businesses with recurring revenue, in there, and it's hard to remove the thing. Those are the ones that sell for multiples and multiples of revenue because of that reason.
So what's next for you now? Since you have the team that's executing, what are you working on now?
Yeah, well, I love software. Right, so ScoreApp, ScoreApp is
phenomenal.
ScoreApp is going to be a big business. It's growing 5% month on month. It's an amazing team. Customers love us.
AI,
we're using
that's fantastic.
AI.
Yeah, enhanced.
Built another software company recently called bookmagic.ai.
Tell me about that.
Well, basically, you tell it your book idea and it maps it into chapters for you. Uses AI to map it into chapters. Gives you analogies. Gives you research. Gives you all the stuff. So probably halves the speed of writing a book. So if it would take you 5 months to write a book, you'll do it in 2.5, 3 months with bookmagic.ai.
So that could help someone become a key person of influence,
help them write
build
a book.
Credibility.
And the key is that it doesn't write the book for you.
Okay.
It structures the writing of the book for you. So it's giving you a step-by-step paint by numbers approach. You still paint, but it tells you, it says in chapter 1, you're going to cover these key points.
Wow.
Right. And you're going to tell some stories that make these points. And it's the AI is analyzing and giving you direction, but it's still your words. And the reason for that is Amazon will not publish AI-generated books. They're not going to put AI-generated books into bookstores. And there's AI detectors that can detect if a book has been written by AI. So the AI can be a great support mechanism, but it can't write the book for you, right? It's because so we've created a tool that does that.
That's a great distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that piece of software, we launched that a couple of weeks ago. It's got like 400 clients already. It's great. And a few people signing up every day.
How would people sign up for something like that?
Bookmagic.ai. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good one. I just keep coming up with AI software ideas, AI portals, AI-enabled SaaS ideas.
Wow.
So
because you can take any, and just on a basic level, I started playing with it too. Any task that you do, you repeat every single day. You can automate pretty much just about anything within a company.
The 3 circles on this Venn diagram is the client information, the unique intellectual property that you know, which forms the basis of how you prompt the AI, and then that client information plus your IP over to a generative AI system like OpenAI, and then that returns back to a portal that the client sees, or the company sees, and then those 3 things mix to produce something of much greater value. And if you can get that formula right, you can build a very valuable software company, because the AI race has only really just begun. It's only, we're only in the early doors. Everything is going to have AI portals.
Oh my gosh. I one of the things that we talked about is assessment. Reading basically these settlement agreements that are poorly written, inconsistent, and it takes a lot of time. So I started training AI basically to pull and extract certain data, list all the retirement plans, and then pull out keywords that are problematic. So at least basically, and it's a basic template, but it really saves time, and it's amazing. I mean, there's a potential for sure.
A huge potential. And you look at, the future of, the legal profession, there's no question that AI is going to be a support mechanism. It's going to have to find its place.
Absolutely.
The pendulum's going to swing from, AI is going to just do it automatically,
right,
through to, AI is going to help us make better choices and better decisions and focus highly skilled people's time and resources in the highest value spot without wasting time.
Efficiency.
Yeah, similar to what the medical industry's had happen, which is that doctors don't spend a long time looking at scans because the scans are already highlighting the problematic areas and problematic regions, and the scans are already AI. AI has already had a look at the scans, and now the doctors are having a look at what the AI has found. So it's just speeding up the time.
Process. Yeah.
And there's these Da Vinci systems now where the AI is kind of like able to provide levels of feedback and, in keyhole surgery and all this. And it's dependent upon AI. I think that'll happen with the legal profession. I think what will happen is that AI will become a phenomenal, almost always on paralegal that is the best paralegal you've ever had.
Right. To assist and
that's fast and 24/7 and all that sort of stuff.
Summarize.
Kind of like some sort of like ABS braking for a car.
Right.
Slam your foot on the brake and the car knows that you want to stop real quick, so it figures everything. It just does it all for you.
Yeah, it's not going to go to trial for you, basically, We're talking about custody, and we're not talking about replacing someone at that level or doctor necessarily. It's the processes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like for the military, it's night vision. It gives the ability for a soldier to see in the dark, but the soldier still, is there. So something like that.
Wow, you'll have to be back. See, I have you on a camera. You will be back.
Fantastic. We covered some distance.
Yes, well, absolutely. I mean, this is fascinating, and thank you so much for sharing your personal story. And I'll make sure that we have posted the links to your companies, the resources. In our show notes, so that people can find you, and really people, entrepreneurs in all walks of life. Sounds like you have just about anything for anybody at any phase in their process.
We work with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great work. But thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.